Good morning, Aquarius. How's it going in your neck of the woods? Here it's raining. About 35 degrees out. So just hanging out in the cabin. But for Aquarius, there's a feeling I keep sensing when I sit down and it's that quiet moment when you realize something about your life that no longer feels the way it used to. It's not dramatically, it's not all at once. Just something different. Maybe something you once felt proud of now feels heavy. Maybe a path that made sense a few years ago suddenly feels like it belongs to somebody else. And I feel like some of you, there's this subtle realization that you've grown in ways that people around you might not fully understand. And you're not trying to be distant. You're not trying to change everything overnight. But there's this quiet pull inside of you towards something more meaningful. You're more honest with yourself, more aligned with who you're becoming. And if that resonates with you, then you're probably exactly where you're supposed to be today. I don't think that this video, that you clicked on it by chance. There's a message here. So welcome back to Hermit in the Woods Tarot. My name is Matt, and I'm really glad you're here. If you're new to this channel, feel free to like the video, subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. It helps this channel grow. Leave a comment letting me know where you're watching from. And it still amazes me how this little small cabin in the woods reaches the ether out there all over the world who might be looking for guidance and reflection. And if you ever have questions or topics you'd like me to explore in future readings, leave those in the comments and it'll be on the next reading, and I'll ask that question in the tarot cards. And I do read through them often when planning the next session, so it's free, doesn't cost you anything. As always, remember that tarot readings are here for general guidance. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and trust your own intuition above everything else. This channel isn't about fantasy or escapism. It's picking up. It's about truth-seeking, reflection, personal growth. The Forest teaches us that growth is rarely loud, and most of the time it happens quietly beneath the surface. And then one day you look back and you realize that your life has shifted in ways you never expected. And for Aquarius, something about the energy this next week feels exactly like that. Like you're becoming someone even though you didn't expect. So let's take a look at the cards and see what story they want to tell. And today we're using the House of Dragon Tarot deck. And I use the Iron Throne spread. And the spread looks at a few interesting ideas, and it's where your power is right now, what forces are shaping your decisions, what kind of path might be opening in front of you. Sometimes life feels like a straight road, and more like positioning yourself in much bigger story. And the moment when you realize a path you once walked with confidence suddenly feels misaligned. And maybe it's that you're not entirely sure what the new path looks like, but you know the old one doesn't quite fit anymore. And that could show up in a lot of ways for you Aquarius people out there. Maybe you're reconsidering a career. Maybe you're thinking about moving somewhere new. Maybe you're starting a creative idea that's been quietly growing in the back of your mind. Or maybe you're realizing certain romantic relationships only worked for the version of you that existed before. Well, let's see what the Iron Throne spread, what cards we're going to pull up today. So the first card is Two of Crowns. And this is the Dragon's Eye, and it's the different obstacles that are in your way right now, and you're in the way of your path. Next is the Knight of Crowns, and this is in reverse. And that's the strengths that you hold on this journey. Next, we have the Ten of Tankards in reverse. Yeah, so it's quite rainy here. The last two cards, the Moon and the Devil in reverse. Alright, well, let's pull one more Spirit card. Alright, Justice. And so I'm kind of feeling like some of you might have legal things going on, court, and there's a message here for people that might have that going on in your life. And it doesn't have to mean that. There could be something else, but we'll look into this. So first, we start with the Two of Crowns. And right away, this feels like someone who has been juggling a decision for a while, for quite some time, maybe 6 months to a year. And it's not a small one either. It's something about this card makes me think that there's a period of uncertainty where you've been trying to balance 2 different directions in your life, maybe 2 different worlds, maybe 2 career paths, 2 ways of living, or even 2 different identities. And that's really interesting because the energy doesn't feel like confusion anymore. It feels like clarity arriving after confusion. And if you see the guy here, he's wondering which path he should take. And if you see that, you can see that one path has leaves built up, and the other one has deep grooves kind of embedded in it. So you can tell that one path is the most traveled, and the other one only gets traveled very rarely. So the leaves are building up, but the other one, the path is, mostly traveled on. But it's like you've been sitting with a decision long enough that the answer is starting to reveal itself in a natural way. Some of you, this could absolutely be about moving, lifestyle shift, or stepping into something that feels more authentic, even if others don't fully understand it. Let's move into your strengths, which is the Knight of Crowns in reversed. And this is interesting as a strength card because normally the Knight of Crowns is about steady effort, slow progress. But reversed here, it's almost like you're breaking away from a routine that once defined you. Well, let me sit with that for a moment and kind of look forward in these cards. And you got the Ten of Tankards there, which is reversed. And then the Moon. And then the Devil in reverse. And definitely, for some of you here, there's a realization happening that stability alone isn't enough for you anymore. You don't just want attention or approval. You want a deeper meaning, deeper meaningful work, a deeper meaningful connection. And maybe in the past you stayed in situations because they were comfortable or predictable. But something inside you is starting to question, why is that, and why am I here? And I keep getting this idea that you're discovering a new sense of purpose. It's not something dramatic or loud, just something that feels more true. And so we move on to the Ten of Tankards or Cups. And it is in reverse. And this card feels like the life that you thought you were building, family expectations, long-term plans, the version of happiness that everyone assumes you were supposed to want. But something about this position tells me you're starting to reclaim your personal power. And it's not by rejecting happiness, but by realizing the authenticity matters more than conflict. And sometimes we follow a path because it makes sense to everyone else, until one day we realize it no longer belongs to us. And that can be difficult realization, because part of you might be worrying about disappointing people. So I feel like some of you, you're worried about disappointing your loved ones, your family members. And another part of you knows something important, that not everyone is meant to continue the entire journey with you. And that's a hard realization, very painful sometimes, but it can also be very freeing. Well, let's look into the Moon, and this represents the window and your hidden strengths. And he's holding a baby there, I believe, if I'm correct. It's kind of not quite like noticeable. I don't know. See that? But he's holding something there. And it's a newborn, I believe. And that's very fascinating because the Moon often brings uncertainty, but the feeling I get is this deep intuition, protection, nurturing, and you may be sensing things about people or situations long before they become obvious. And maybe you felt distance in a connection. Some of you might be suspecting someone's intention aren't fully honest with you. They're not being honest with you. And recently those feelings may have been confirmed. Like you noticed something, maybe a coworker, maybe a loved one. And it doesn't have to be like negative, it could be positive. But you might be wondering why you're becoming more comfortable setting boundaries. Why you're protecting your time, why you're protecting your energy. And something about that card also suggests that a lot of your clarity is coming from a quiet reflection. And that reminds me of something nature teaches us. Sometimes stepping away reveals the bigger picture. When you're constantly inside a situation, it's hard to see what's happening. But when you step back, the truth will become clear. So let's move on to the devil, and this is in reverse. This is the best possible outcome. And the message becomes really clear. Because it represents breaking free from something that once held you in place. It's possibly old expectations, old identities, old roles that you were in, and for Aquarius, I think that's exactly what this reading is about. You're letting go of a version of yourself that once made sense, but no longer does. And that could show up in many different ways. Leaving a long-term relationship, maybe you're changing careers, maybe you're moving somewhere that feels more aligned with you are now. Possibly you're starting a creative project or business idea that reflects your true interest. But the deeper message here it's not rebellion, it's liberation. You're choosing peace over validation. Choosing to be real over having a comfortable life. And realizing that you are allowed to grow beyond the life once imagined. We all deserve to have what we want. So if this message resonates, put in the comments, I'm allowed to have what I want. Say it. I'm allowed to get what I want. Alright, let's move on to the spirit message. And this was the Justice. And it's very interesting. Justice feels like the moment where everything begins to make sense, especially after confusion. Again, for some of you, this message is relating to actual paperwork or legal matters, contracts, agreements, documents being corrected or finalized. But on a deeper level, justice is about balancing returning, and it's you seeing the bigger picture. You understand why certain things are happening the way they did. And realizing that choices you're making now are bringing your life back into alignment, not with what others expect of you, but with your soul, what your soul actually wants. So let's move into the astrological energy expansion in the next coming weeks. And astrology around this reading actually supports this identity shift quite strongly. Sunday, March 8th, Venus meets Saturn in your sign. And that's real significant because Venus deals with love, values, relationships, even finances. Saturn represents responsibility and long-term decisions. When these two meet in your first house of identity, it can create a defining moment. And you might realize what you truly value in relationships. You're recognizing that certain connections no longer align with the person that you're becoming. And at the same time, the Scorpio moon harmonizing with Pisces sun encourages private emotional processing. Meaning that some of your biggest realizations might be happening quietly, internally, rather than through big conversations. March 9th, I feel like Mercury in Pisces harmonizes, well, I don't feel that, that's just what's happening. Mercury in Pisces harmonizing with Jupiter in Cancer, and the energy supports intuitive conversations, especially around home and family. Some of you might be discussing future plans, living situation, emotional boundaries, and the Sagittarius moon around that time brings optimism. Almost like the universe is reminding you that the direction you're moving towards is expanding your life and not limiting to it. And I feel like there's celebrations coming about, that you're being invited to parties. Confidence is returning, so you're willing to go here. Hope returning. And decisions that once felt difficult begin to feel clearer. And let me share a small story that this reading reminds me of. And there was once a traveler walking through a long forest. For years he followed the well-worn road that everyone else seemed to take. It was wide, familiar, and easy to navigate. But one evening, as the sun began to set, he noticed a much smaller path branching off into the trees, almost hidden. And curiously, he wondered where that was going. Most travelers walked right past it, but something about it stayed in his mind. So he stopped walking for a moment, lit his lantern, and just stood there. The road behind him was safe and familiar. The smaller path ahead was quiet and uncertain. And after a while, he realized something simple, that the road he had been walking wasn't wrong. It had simply taken him as far as it could. And sometimes the next part of the journey begins when the crowd stops looking. And the Bible speaks about this kind of quiet wisdom too. Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. And another that feels fitting here is Ecclesiastes 3:1. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. And nature reminds us that nature reminds us of that truth constantly. Everything grows in its own season. And sometimes it feels like uncertainty is simply the moment between one chapter ending and the next chapter beginning. But let's pull some clarifying cards, and I pull up the Three of Crowns. And the Three of Dragons in reverse. And so the Three of Crowns, it feels like support and collaboration. And once you make a decision, especially around your career or creative direction, you might find that people entering your life truly appreciate your skills and your perspective. This could be partnerships, teamwork, or even a new professional network. It's almost like once you claim your seat, others recognize your value. And then the Three of Dragons in reverse here. It's very interesting because reverse, this feels like the end of inner conflict. Like the doubts that once held you back are slowly fading. And I keep coming back to this idea that a new chapter is opening for you. But it opens gradually. Confidence returns piece by piece. Circumstances improve once a certain decision is made. And you begin to feel something you may not have felt in a while. And a sense of forward moment. So the message for today feels very reflective. It's not dramatic. It's not rushed. Just a quietly powerful. And of course, this could resonate with you in the next couple weeks. It could take months. So if you're watching this video years from now, the message still holds power. Power. Time is relative. And these messages can really help anyone. So if you're a cross watcher and you're watching this, you felt drawn here, there's a message for you as well. And I feel like you're in the middle of a identity shift, letting go of roles that once defined you, recognizing that some people and paths belong to a previous chapter, and allowing yourself to move towards something more aligned, even if that direction feels unfamiliar. Remember something important, that personal growth often looks strange from the outside, but from the inside it feels like truth. And the forest teaches us something simple about that reflection can sometimes be more powerful than constant action. Sometimes the answers appear when we slow down long enough to hear them. Sometimes you just gotta sit back, look out the window, watch the rain drench the ground, because that's what's gonna make that grass turn from dry, brittle grass to being green and fresh and having those plants grow. So sometimes the answers appear when we slow down long enough to hear them. But thank you for spending time here. with me at Hermit in the Woods Tarot. Again, if this reading resonated with you, like the video, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what part spoke to you the most, and if you'd like, tell me where you're watching from as well. It's always enjoyable to see how far these readings travel from this quiet place in the woods, and your support always truly means a lot to me. And until next time, take care of yourself, and always remember that sometimes the answers we're searching for were already waiting in the quiet.